We got some information in regards to the parks panel for the upcoming D23 Expo. We're going to break it down. We're going to talk about it up next.
Welcome to Orange Grove 55.
Welcome aboard to another episode of OG 55. I brought my good friend, my collaborator, producer Dre, Dr. Dre, host of Freshly Squeezed, Vash Guy. Welcome back to the channel, brother.
Hey, happy to be here. This is interesting because I don't know. We're starting to get our first indications of what might be in store for this D23 Expo, and I'm excited to talk about it. So thank you for having me on. If you guys don't want to follow me, you can go ahead and do so right down there at VashSky, just like it's spelled. Type in Twitter, should pop up for all the, as Christine Wastelands McCarthy would say,
all the robust
discussion that you can possibly have right there. And if you want to see me, well, it's going to be on the channel you're watching right now at Orange Grove 55 at Freshly Squeezed, your source for juicy news and info squeezed fresh right from the Grove.
Perfect. We got you all checked in.
Oh, you did. I love
it. Perfect. All right, so let's go ahead and dive into the topic at hand today, which is really going to be focusing on the D23 Expo. It's coming up fast and furious, everybody. We're not too far off now, and we're finally starting to get some information as to what we might expect from this parks panel. So let's dive into this. This is pretty fascinating stuff. So this is from our friends over at blogmickey.com, and the park panel will be called The Wonderful World of Dreams. All right, so to kind of dive in here, it says, one of the most anticipated parts of the D23 Expo 2022 for Disney fans is discovering what Disney Parks experience and products has in store, both on the show floor and in panels and presentations. This year promises to be full of Disney Parks excitement. Well, I hope so. We'll see. But it goes on to say, right? Yeah, we'll see. Cautiously optimistic. It goes on to say, with new pavilions, captivating panel presentations, and exclusive retail experiences, the D23 Expo attendees will be the first to learn about never-before-seen details of new themed lands, attraction shows, and so much more. Now, Dre, out the gate, like that, the little bit that we hear here, in this paragraph regarding like what to expect, what are your overall thoughts here? Because Disney doesn't really, this is like a PR thing, right? And sure. Like they don't usually, I'm not saying Blog Mickey's a PR thing, but the press release, from Disney is very much PR driven, and the wording, the verbiage, and all that stuff usually isn't an accident. What do you kind of make of this kind of initial, kind of description of what we can expect?
Well, like you said, it's PR, it's trying to get you excited, right? And so they use some captivating language in order to do so. And I think they did their job, right? Because you got a lot of people talking now about what's going to actually happen at D23 Expo. Now, I will say, if you look at the kind of finer details of the of this press release later on, it's a lot of retreading of kind of the ground that it has been in the works for a while. Like they go on the, like, for example, they talk about Disney Wish a lot, and it's like, okay, yeah, that it's like, okay, but that ship's open. We have it. It's sailing right now. What else is new, kind of thing. But it's mentioned in this press release multiple times. So it's like, are we going to get a lot of the announcements that we are hoping to get? And it's interesting. I was just on Sean or Ranking the Mouse's channel. Definitely go check that out as soon as he posts that. It's going to be a good discussion that we have there. But, he was saying something interesting. He was like, well, it's not a guarantee, obviously, that we'll, have every single thing announced that we are thinking at D23 Expo, right? It's pretty unrealistic, actually, to assume that. But there's always like this kind of announcement that nobody was expecting, nobody had rumors on, nobody had sources on, that they every single D23 Expo beforehand has showed, they've revealed. So I think going along with that thinking, I think he's correct. I think there will be something that we don't quite expect. But we're just going to have to go ahead and wait and see on this particular line right here. And we'll go forward on what this might be. New theme lands. It's a very interesting wording. This isn't just attractions. They're really kind of bringing at the lands portion of this, which suggests, I don't know. I mean, look, are they maybe they're talking about Hong Kong? Maybe they're talking about Disneyland Paris, right? Or Walt Disney Studios Park in Paris. Those are obviously getting new lands, and that's a very kind of interesting development process right there. Also, Tokyo Disney Sea is getting the Fantasy land, right? So it might be just talking about what's already on the table, what's already in the works, right? But I don't know. There's a lot of smoke here. It's going to be really interesting to find out what's the fire.
Yeah, no, you're right. There's absolutely a lot of smoke here. And Disney has so many parks worldwide that, like, of course, everyone kind of sees it from their own kind of like fan perspective. Like, oh, well, like I'm a Disneylander, so I want to see, I want a new land here at Disneyland Resort. But the reality of the situation is that Disney has parks in Shanghai, Hong Kong, Paris, Tokyo. I mean, yeah, like you said, these lands could be for any of those other parks.
Right.
I would love to see a new land here in Anaheim. What would be interesting is you mentioned that you were on Ranking the Mouse yesterday, and you guys were talking about how like the D23 Expo tends to have like these out of nowhere announcements. And that's true. I remember for the Expo in 2017, I was watching that and I saw John Lasseter on stage announcing Pixar Pier, something no one predicted.
Right.
It came out of left field. Like I was like, wait, what?
Yeah.
There was no rumor of it, no murmur of it. None of the sites were talking about it. And it came out at the expo, like out of the blue. That kind of stuff happens a lot. And that kind of thing could even tie into this new theme lands. Maybe we'll see a re-theming of an existing land that Disney's going to repackage as a new land. That's a possibility. Not saying it's going to happen for sure, but it's definitely on the table. So all these things are kind of out there. It's going to be interesting to see what they do with it. Look, I've said many times that I feel like the expo is sort of like the Walt Disney World show most of the time.
Right.
And that's why I've kind of checked out mentally a little bit, not because I don't care about Walt Disney World. It's just that Disneyland is my home park. I'm more invested, right? So I'm just naturally more interested. But I really do feel like this is our year, fandom. This is our year. Like this might be the year that Disneylanders rise up and get some cool stuff. We will see. We will absolutely see. I really don't want to get my expectations up too high, but hopefully we get some decent stuff here. I'm feeling the energy, though. I'm feeling the energy.
Hopefully we do. I mean, obviously we definitely want that. Like I said, I've had kind of my back and forth with Tomorrowland, right? It's like, oh, do you really want to do something right now? It's could be, how much budget are we going to get to really do this correctly, right? But all that being said, I'm really excited about this D23 Expo in particular because we could see, it could, look, I'm not going to lie to you guys. It could just be, more information on Toontown, and then maybe the Encanto Treehouse. Okay? I mean, something like that. It could very well be that. Or maybe, hey, Magic Happens is coming back. Kind of like Churros is coming back. Something like that. Something like that, right? It could be, it could be that. But it also could be, hey, you know what? We talked about this attraction last D23 Expo, right? With the Avengers e-ticket. Well, guess what? It's, back on the slate again, that kind of thing. Which I think, if nothing, I mean, that would be a huge win just by itself. Huge win. I'm hoping for Tomorrowland like everybody else. Obviously, I think the budget, I don't know, it might not be as robust as we maybe necessarily want, but hey, I something could happen there. There seems to be more movement on that, by the way. Just to digress just for a second here.
Sure.
I think we can talk about this, right? Where a portion of the wall within the Star Tours, queue there that was blocking the People Mover, apparently that was displaced for a little bit there. So it's like,
it's crazy.
we've seen now on July 17th, right, of this year, we saw people walking the platform, right, over there at the loading platform that's been abandoned for many years. And now we see another maybe piece of evidence to suggest that maybe there's some momentum in this direction here that would have been unthinkable even a couple of months ago.
No, 100%. There's definitely a lot of smoke here, and maybe none of it will pan out. Maybe we'll get to the expo and no Tomorrowland stuff will be announced, and it'll be a nothing burger. That's very possible. But there's no denying, between the rumors we're hearing out of Walt Disney World News today, even like from Mice Chat talking about, the overall Tomorrowland renovation being something that is possibly going to be announced at the expo. Like you said, Dre, these executives kind of walking the People Mover track, the wall being removed in the Star Tours queue that it was covering up the People Mover little portal viewing thing.
Sure.
There's a lot going on. Will this pan out into something like tangible? Maybe not. But it's fun to speculate, and it certainly seems like it's pointing in that direction. So, I mean, look, I'm with you. And when it comes to Tomorrowland, I would love for Damaro and Bobby Chapek to come up there and go, hey, you know what, fans? Anaheim, you're getting a brand new Tomorrowland. We're bringing the People Mover back. We're going all out. I would love to see that. But like you've mentioned many times on the show, Dre, the CapEx is a major problem.
Huge. It's
a major barrier to this stuff right now. Huge. And it worries me that if there is a new Tomorrowland announced, that we're going to get like the new Tomorrowland on a shoestring budget, and that worries me. I would rather them not touch it at all. Wait maybe 10 years. And when you have the money, do it right, then kind of half-ass it. And then we're back in the same freaking problem that we are now. Tomorrowland needs to get like a real actual fix. And if you're not committed to that, then don't even touch it, in my opinion. So we'll see what happens. I mean, are they going to announce that at D23? I hope so, but the announcement's only the first step. Are they going to follow through and make it? It's kind of similar to the Tiana Splash Mountain thing. I've said many times, I'm not against them retheming the attraction. At least at Disneyland, I think it fits our park very well. It's New Orleans. It straddles the New Orleans Square. It straddles Critter Country. This IP is really a perfect IP. If you're going to retheme that attraction, this IP is really perfect for that Disneyland Splash Mountain. It's not about the IP. For me personally, it's about the execution. Right. Are they gonna stick the landing? That's my problem. How are you going to create songs that are new, that are going to hit as hard as Zippity Doo-Dah? That's a tall order. It kind of reminds me a little bit of the issue that they had when they did the Mary Poppins sequel. Yeah. Like, how are you going to create a soundtrack that's going to compete with Supercalifragilisticexpialidocious? How do you compete? Right? How do you compete with that? And look, Lin-Manuel did a great job with the music, in that sequel, but still never lived up to the original though. And when you're dealing with an attraction that's permanent and it's going to be there for a long time, it makes me nervous. And supposedly we're going to even hear about that. I mean, from what I'm hearing in here, we're going to get some behind the scenes glimpses at Tiana's Bayou adventure. So I don't know. Behind the scenes, though, that's interesting. Again, Disney none of this verbiage is accident.
Right. Yeah.
So 100%. Behind the scenes, what are your first impressions, Dre, on that? When you hear behind the scenes? Behind the scenes,
is that going to be another, what is it, another YouTube video where they have a roundtable discussion and the comments are blocked and the like dislike ratio is blocked? Is that going to be another behind the scenes thing?
Right.
Look, it's maybe they roll out the whole red carpet on what's actually going to happen with Tiana's Bayou adventure. Hopefully they do, but I'm not so convinced. The scant information that we've had so far. Man, I don't know. I don't know what it necessarily points to. It's an interesting thing. We'll have to wait and see. Like you said, though. I mean, you make a very good point. That's a hard kind of kind of thing to deal with when it comes to the legacy of Splash Mountain and how iconic that song was, how iconic that attraction is, and you're supposed to, do something that is even more enduring. That's a high bar, high threshold, and from what I've seen so far, I'm not necessarily convinced they will stick the landing, but we'll see. I'm guessing we'll have a clearer picture of maybe what goes into it at D23 EXPO. It certainly is outright mentioned here, not even alluded to, but mentioned right over here. It's interesting about the your point about Tomorrowland, and that goes into the next byline right here. But Tomorrowland, it's very fascinating how it's kind of coming up in conversation, like in the way it is. And hey, maybe it's because of this other line right here where it says new Frozen themed experiences, right? Now, of course, Hong Kong is getting, a Frozen themed land. It's in construction right now. Disneyland Paris, Walt Disney Studios Park in Paris, is cleaning the lane for that Frozen land that they're going to get. Apparently, it's going to be very similar to Hong Kong's, although it won't have, I think, the Wandering Oaken's sleighs there. It won't have that attraction, but it'll have pretty much everything else and reconfigured somewhat to accommodate in that space. But hey, maybe that is another indication that maybe Disneyland might be getting its own version of this land. And maybe the motivating factor to handle Tomorrowland is because, well, they got to clear some room out, and that will interact directly with Tomorrowland. So maybe there's kind of a dual modality here of things, and we necessarily haven't connected those dots. From what I understand, Tomorrowland was on the agenda pre-2020. And then after 2020, some things got sidelined. And from what I understand, maybe it's still going forward, but with cuts and maybe, modifications and all that kind of thing. We'll have to see. But it's gonna be a fascinating thing. Frozen themed experiences. That is the particular thing that's mentioned here. It could be that they have a diminishing slate when it comes to investment, right? They're just mentioning the things that are already on it, and they're going to provide some more glimpses into those things, to kind of like shore up the lack of announcements they have. Hey, that could be the case. I wouldn't be surprised if that was the case. But there's a lot of movement in a lot of other directions here that indicates that maybe this D23 Expo might be bigger than we had originally anticipated. Obviously, the transformation of Epcot, that's a big, huge thing. A lot of people have a lot of questions about how that's going to work there. I'm sure we'll get some more flooring patterns there. coming out of that team over there. That's going to be really fun to see. Disney Cruise Line, live entertainment, more. Again, I think it's going to be this expo in particular is really, really fascinating. How does the company respond just coming out of the events of 2020 with Bob Chapek at the helm and so forth like that? Right. It's going to be really, really interesting to see.
Well, the Frozen thing is interesting because we saw Imagineer Scott Trowbridge tweeting out a picture of the old motorboat cruise area at Disneyland, which kind of straddles Tomorrowland and Fantasyland. To your point, it ties into a new Tomorrowland because it definitely does affect it. It's right in that same kind of proximity, sure. Right? And all that Tomorrowland stuff kind of crisscrosses over that motorboat area, like the old People Mover track and all that stuff. It's definitely connected. But it's interesting that he tweeted out a picture of the motorboat area and saying Disneyland will never be complete. Mm-hmm. And then I think back in June, Trowbridge mentioned he was in, what was it, Iceland on a work thing? And it's like, okay, well, we know that Frozen 2 was heavily inspired by Iceland. So, look.
Frozen 2, right there.
Right there for our buddy Matthew Murr.
That's it right there. Bought from the old Disney store, by the way. Now that's nice. Gone, so that's interesting. But look, I'm not. I know it's easy to kind of go down a rabbit hole and kind of like make things like kind of connect dots maybe that aren't there. But when you have a lead Imagineer saying that he took a trip to Iceland, which was the country very much inspired the movie of Frozen 2, then you have him taking a picture of the motorboat cruise area, which would really be a perfect area for a Frozen attraction, being that it basically sits in the shadow of the icy Matterhorn.
on top of that, Frozen's $1 billion franchise.
Yes.
And like you said, Hong Kong is already building a Frozen attraction. I mean, the stars
remember,
are kind of aligning,
It was, Frozen was rumored for Disneyland for a long time. This is not a new rumor. This is way old. I don't know if have I shared this before? I think I've shared this before, right? I created an old map for Mouse Info a long time ago, right? And if you type in Vash Sky map into Google, you can probably find it. It probably just pop up in the image section right there, and you'll see Frozen is right on there. And I put that in there for a reason, folks. It was a for sure bet. Some other things, became a priority for the company, but Frozen has always been one of these brands that they've wanted to see integrated permanently into the Disneyland Resort. So it's not that much of a stretch, folks, to OG's point. I'm sorry, I kind of rolled on you a little bit there. What were you going to say there, OG?
You're good. No, you're 100%, man. You're 100%. It's not a stretch to think that a Frozen attraction might be going into that motorboat cruise area or something. Like you said, it's been a thing for Disney for a while now. Frozen's a massive franchise. It's coming up on 10 years, if you can believe it. The 10-year anniversary of Frozen is coming up next year in 2023, and it's still a very popular franchise. It's kind of proven itself to be sort of this timeless thing where, hey, look, it's still around. You still hear about it, I definitely see the interest there. Now, I can definitely see Disney's motivation in building something like that and approving that over something like a new Tomorrowland just because of that IP power.
100%. 100%. And I would honestly, to me, I would prefer that because like you said, the CapEx issues and stuff like that, let's not rush Tomorrowland. If we can avoid doing anything with it for the time being until they overcome some of their cash flow issues, I would prefer it because it's going to take a lot of work here. This is not, some small thing that Tomorrowland is suffering from. These are some big substantial changes that I think you'd have to undergo in order to really make that a premier land in the 9 Disneylands that exist in Disneyland. But that being said, with Frozen, like to your point there, you've already got carbon copies coming out of both Hong Kong and Paris, right? It wouldn't be necessarily that much of a stretch to fold that development and all that into Disneyland. It's been a part of the park's rumor mill before, so obviously there was some development in that space before. I would be a fan of going in that direction first anyway. For the reasons listed, just because I do think there's more revenue potential there for sure for Frozen, right? Just thinking from a company kind of ops perspective, right? Far more revenue generation. It's got that premier IP. And then we can use whatever cash we make there to fold in Tomorrowland. It works perfectly. There you go.
No, it does. It absolutely does. It's a $1 billion franchise. It's lasted now almost a decade, and it's still in the public consciousness. It's not like a movie like WALL-E. And look, I love WALL-E. I think WALL-E is a gorgeous movie. WALL-E is like a work of art.
Yeah,
it is
probably my favorite Pixar film, actually. Very good.
Gorgeous. The first half of the movie, there's no dialogue, and it's riveting. You can't take your eyes off of it. It's brilliant filmmaking. But as much as it makes me sad to say this, it really isn't like, that movie came out, I think, in like 2008, and like it's 2022 and no one talks about it, right?
Yeah.
But Frozen came out in 2013 and people are still very much talking about it.
Right.
Frozen's a very relevant franchise still this many years after. I'm sure it's a merchandise king when it comes to.
Well, look at the Disney Wish. The Disney Wish recently just debuted, and as part of the Disney the dining experiences on board that vessel, there was Star Wars, Marvel, and Frozen. Frozen was the big thing there, and I know Tom just had his review out on Walt Disney World News today and talked about how they were supposed to have the the Olaf animatronic. Apparently, it wasn't working for him. It's Disney in 2022. What are you gonna do? But no, but they believed in it, Right. And look, Disney has done this before. Look, Little Mermaid, when it made its debut first at Disney California Adventure in 2011, is when that came out. Okay, yeah. Yep. So that's 20 plus years after the film makes its debut in 1989. we've seen them do this before. Even Tony Baxter said, hey, when it came to Tangled specifically, it's like, can we get Rapunzel right in here and not have to wait 20 years, like Ariel did? And because I think that the kind of notion was out there that's like, can we capitalize on these a little bit sooner? And so I think there is some momentum in this space that with Frozen being this kind of franchise, with 2 movies in order to pull or extract content from, people definitely want to see it. Still a hot property to your point. People are still, buying the merch. Little girls still want to be Elsa or Anna or whatever. Can we establish something in here? I think it does make sense. I don't think it's too much of a stretch. And a good point about the Matterhorn, right? I mean, it just buttresses up beautifully to it. It'll be, the rock work that we're seeing from Hong Kong looks insane.
Oh my god! And
juxtaposing that next to the Matterhorn, I think it works out brilliantly.
Oh, it's flawless, absolutely flawless. Now, I do want to ask you, Dre.
Sure.
And I think this actually would be a lot more of a long shot than maybe like the Frozen announcement, or it might even be more of a long shot than maybe even a Tomorrowland announcement. I don't know. We'll see. But do you think at D23 Expo, we're going to get any word? And I'm not talking about like specific plans per se, but just some sort of update, some sort of announcement, some sort of acknowledgement about Disneyland Forward.
I was asked the very same question by Sean, actually. This is very interesting.
Ranking the most?
We might hear a rough mention of it, right? But I don't think we'll get anything beyond that. And honestly, even a rough mention, I point as kind of a low percentage chance. Now, it's not to say that, look, and I even told Sean this too, it's not to say that Disneyland Forward's dead. I don't think it necessarily is, like we said in the last show, right? There's some... there's indications by even this council, even after the FBI report and the friction between the city and the council members and so forth, that there might be some indication that they are at least open to the idea of approving things maybe in Disney's favor, right? I mean, I thought that 2% tax, that was going through. I thought that was going forward. That was going to be it right there, right? But surprisingly, they voted no, and it's like, wow, California voted no on taxes. Isn't that interesting? But
right?
Look, this is what to expect. I mean, and I'm not, I'm not dogging any party or whatever. Sean himself even said he was very surprised that this was going in this direction. So this is kind of a definitely a thing surrounding this issue. And hey, it worked out in Disney's favor there. Maybe they might be open to something like a Disneyland Forward, if only for the economic reasons, right? I mean, this would be an economic driver for the entire city and even in the surrounding cities if they were to approve something like this. And it's a rezoning thing. Just give Disney the ability to use the land they're already paying taxes on that they already own. It's not that big of an ask, to be honest. And that's why I pegged this thing at over 90% before this FBI report came out, because it's like, this makes sense. It's just, you're wanting a major corporation to invest in your city at a time when you need it. Oh yeah, sign the dotted line kind of thing. Now, obviously, the allegations of impropriety and so forth could stymie that a little bit, and we'll have to see. And but I'm still very confident that we will get at least a portion of what Disney was asking for within the next 5 to 10 years. I'm very confident in that. Maybe it might be broken up. Maybe it might be, and it might not be a whole package like it was as presented by Disneyland 4, but I think something will come out of that. But as far as D23 Expo, this is kind of why. Low chance that they go into anything substantive. And it's even a kind of a modest to low chance that they even mention it at all. I'm hoping so, but you never know.
You never know. Yeah. I mean, it's a weird thing because it's not really completely up to Disney in terms of this announcement, because you're dealing with like the city and things that are like public record. So I don't necessarily even know if if they approve it, if you can even keep it a secret until the expo, right? So you're dealing with a lot of things here. I don't know. I hope so. I do feel Disneyland Forward is very important to the future of the resort, because I think that in order to sort of get new things but not cannibalize what you already have, you sort of need to expand that perimeter a little bit. I'm not a huge fan, to be honest, of some of the plans they showed us with like kind of integrating the Disneyland Hotel into the theme park stuff, just because I think the Disneyland Hotel is very ugly, and I don't know how that would really like play. Like, look, if you're staying at the Disneyland Hotel, oh god, the views are going to be freaking amazing. You're looking over the theme park, gorgeous. But what if you're in the theme park though, looking up
100%.
at those big Lego looking blue boxes? I don't know, not the greatest view from inside a theme park, you know. So I'm a little iffy on that. I don't know. Maybe they'll give Disneyland, hotel kind of like a facelift if they were going to integrate it into like a theme park. And hope so. We'll see.
That point, I think they would. I mean, Disneyland Paris, for all of its flaws, really set the standard when it came to hotel integration into a theme park. Right. The Disneyland Hotel out there beautifully integrates with that amazing version of that Main Street front entrance right there. Just absolutely fantastic work by the team there, and I think they would want something like that, or even a Grand Californian Hotel kind of integration, DCA kind of thing when it came to any expansion in those areas. So I would strongly agree with you that if they do go that route, which I think they will, but when they do, we'll say, I think they would give those things a facelift in order to better integrate them into the theme park proper. Hopefully,
that would be pretty cool. Now, I do want to ask you one thing before we go, and I actually sent this to you and George via text message. It's kind of annoying because the OC register, like it's behind a paywall. But for some reason, like the first view will allow you to actually read the article, but then anything after that, like you can't. So I had to screenshot the headline. I'll link the article down below, but just keep in mind, everybody at home, it's behind a paywall. I freaking hate that, but it is what it is. But anyway, here it says here, and I just want to bring this up because, and I might be reading too far into this, and if I am, cool, no worries. I'm just kind of like spitballing here. This is from, I believe, Brady McDonald, actually, which, he's pretty connected. I mean, he does a lot of articles about theme parks, not just Disneyland. He even does like Knott's and things like that,
He's kind of the kind of theme park guy for the OC Register, so pretty good authority on this kind of subject. But go ahead.
Yeah, and he has sources, obviously, and so he's been doing this for years. But the headline for this article, this was basically kind of referencing that downtown Disney parking lot, which we've speculated on, and we talked to Theme Park Wizard about this, and Disney Family Man. What is this downtown Disney kind of like thing that they're doing? Right, they're ripping everything up and taking trees out. Well, the article basically goes into what it is. It's basically they're just repiping and replanting trees and pretty innocuous sort of stuff, pretty benign, right? But the thing that caught my eye about this article is the headline. Is Disneyland building a third theme park? Not yet. And that was interesting to me coming from Brady McDonald, just because, like we said, he's a trusted source. He's obviously is connected. OC Register is very much kind of like a mouthpiece for Disneyland Resort. I mean, I think they go to them a lot for various PR things, all that. Did you? I want to ask you, Dre, did you find it at all interesting that the wording on this headline was not yet?
Yeah, I mean, look, I think a third theme park, I think everybody knows. I think it's the worst kept secret in all of Anaheim and the West Coast, maybe even the theme park community itself, that eventually Disneyland's going to get a third gate. It's going to happen. Guys, it's absolutely going to happen. They have, what the Toy Story lot currently is zoned for is a theme park. They had a website touting a third theme park right after the construction of the Disneyland Resort and DCA proper back in 2001. So everybody kind of knows that it's coming, and it's kind of interesting here to suggest that it may have been coming in this area, because Disneyland Forward suggested, these, whether it be Disneyland or Disney Comfort Adventure would expand into these areas. But the way it's kind of written here and talking about the Stitch cast member parking lot, which, by the way, I hate being right all the time. Sometimes I hate it because I want you guys to be right. I want it to be something more, but C'est la vie. You know, I just something told me.
Yeah.
I hate it. You know, look, I mean, when it came to this, right? It's like, why would you equate third theme park in this area?
Right.
Now, that's a very interesting thing. Maybe I have to read the context of the article itself. Maybe he provides. Yeah. Maybe somebody was speculating out there that it was this is the third theme park. This isn't just the expansion. He was just clarifying those rumors. But to put it in a headline like this, it is very interesting. It is very head scratching. It's it's like what is this all about?
It is. It's fascinating the verbiage on that, and it could be total chance. Maybe this was just the headline they went with, and there was not much meaning behind it. It was very possible. I just found it very interesting because the headline kind of implies that the third theme park was the assumption, he was assuming that everyone thought this was going to be a third theme park. Right. So that was interesting. And hey, like I said, maybe I'm reading a little far into this, but it is interesting wording here, and I'm only taking it seriously really because it's coming from Brady McDonald and the OC Register, and Disney utilizes them a lot, and they're connected and they're a source. So it's just interesting that this particular outlet decided to do that. We'll see, but as of right now, it's definitely not going to be a third theme park. It's not even going to be a theme park at all, and not even an expansion. It's just going to be a parking lot.
Now, speaking about expansion, just one thing real fast. We've now seen, I just want to put it out there, we've now seen a new emphasis placed on the Marvel MCU, right? With the San Diego Comic-Con, and they just announced all kinds of stuff, right? And it's like, okay, so the MCU, they definitely have a way forward, right? And the company is really excited about it. They're approving all of these different projects that Kevin Feige can dream up. And we just had, 2 Avengers films actually announced. My question to you is, what are the chances of the Marvel Avengers e-ticket, being announced at D23 EXPO, or at least just kind of maybe mentioned again? What do you think about that?
I think the chances for that are actually pretty high. I really do, and I've been actually very bullish on this e-ticket just because I think it's the franchise connected to it, right? Yes. If this was like an original idea, if it was like a Mystic Manor or something, I'd be like, "There's no chance." The pandemic killed it. We're done. It's not happening.
Yep,
but it's the MCU, like. It's money on the table. I mean, this is a golden goose kind of franchise, and is constantly laying golden eggs. They already have the R&D, the research and development for this e-ticket. It was planned, ready to go. The pandemic, according to Bob Chapek, is the reason why they sort of put it on hold. I would be shocked if this didn't go through. I don't see any. Look, what else could you put in DCA? That's gonna be more profitable than a massive MCU e-ticket. There's nothing else you can put in there. Like, I could see if it was like kind of like I said, like it was like a Mystic Manor they were gonna put there, but then but what other franchises do we have that might be bigger? What can we sell? What can make us more money? But there's nothing else that will make you more money than what you're gonna build with the MCU e-ticket, with the Marvel e-ticket.
Correct.
So it just seems like the first natural choice. I would be shocked if we don't hear any movement on the Avengers e-ticket at D23. I really would be. I'd be really, really surprised. It was already on the table. It's a massive franchise. And
it fits all the kind of buttons. The reason I asked is because Sean actually asked me. I was like, well, that's a very interesting question there. And thinking about it more clearly, I thought it was a good thing to bring to our viewers, because it is kind of this interesting thing that I know everybody's talking about Tomorrowland, everybody's talking about maybe a Frozen, maybe everybody's talking about the Treehouse, but let's not sleep on this Avengers e-ticket. I mean, this is something that California Adventure desperately needs. They desperately need another e-ticket just to kind of bring people back over from, kind of Rise and so forth. Avengers Campus itself needs something to kind of really solidify it as kind of a real for real land, so to speak, right? I mean, we definitely need something there, and I think the Avengers e-ticket, and look, from what I understand, there was going to be built-in modularity or flexibility to integrate new characters as they come out. What better way to promote new films, franchises, movies, whatever, than to actually integrate them into this attraction? It just fits all the right notes. And I would be, like you said, I'd be shocked if they didn't at least mention it. Maybe not provide any more details, but shocked if they didn't at least mention it. And like you said, it's coming eventually, whether it be at this D23 EXPO or something else, it's coming eventually. I don't think there's any question about that. And let's not sleep on the shows and stuff either. There's still some stuff at Disneyland Resort is still lacking. Show at the Hyperion, for example. We could get an announcement there at D23 EXPO. Something that's like, hey, you know what? We've got something here. Hey, maybe an announcement that Magic Happens is coming back. I don't know. Magic happens again at D23 EXPO.
It's happening.
It's happening, right? Something could happen. The Disneyland Resort is not yet at full strength because of the lack of these kind of things, and maybe we get some more clarity at D23 EXPO. So, if you people wanted to kind of temper their expectations, you can look at those things as well.
Yeah, no, 100%. I think if, like, in terms of like the probability factor, I think that Avengers ticket getting announced is high on the probability factor meter for me. I think that's definitely above like a new Tomorrowland. I kind of, even to be honest, even though I'm pretty bullish about a Frozen thing coming and even being announced, I would even put it kind of even maybe a notch or two above even the Frozen announcement.
I would.
You're right.
Well, look, if Frozen makes money, Marvel MCU definitely makes money. I mean, we're talking just in box office gross alone, we're talking probably $15 billion. I mean, honestly.
Yeah, no, 100%. That's definitely on the table. And the nerd in me, I really want this attraction because it's going to be built right behind Mission Breakout. And I don't know, there's a lot of like open space there. Right now, it's just a parking lot or a former parking lot or whatever. And there's some sightline issues back there. And I think that that big building would really sort of, again, like what Cars Land did for the park, really keep a lot of the outside world, from permeating into the park itself.
Correct.
That big building would definitely block a lot of that stuff. And I think that just little by little, DCA is becoming a little more immersive with each big thing, right? So that's one more thing that I'm looking forward to. Just that's the nerd in me. I look at sight lines and things like that, and I think that would be a big benefit to DCA. So yeah, I think that's high on the list. I would be very surprised and actually pretty disappointed if that wasn't announced, because that seems like the no-brainer. I mean, come on, you guys already did the research and development. It was ready to go, and the Pandy killed it. Bring it back, And Chapek even talked about that. Like I said earlier, he even said that it basically was just put on hold because of the money, because of the pandemic, and as was the case with the Mary Poppins thing over at Epcot. So now we'll see. Things change. I mean, just because Chapek said that 6 months ago doesn't necessarily mean that that's the case now. Things change, but pretty confident though. I'm pretty confident.
And one of the other big things too is like the Timon parking lot is unmolested land. This was actually Sean's point. It's like you would have to do a lot of work in order to do a Frozen thing in Disneyland, because you got the motorboat cruise area to work, to work around, the monorail, people mover tracks, Autopia, maybe. You got all that kind of stuff to work out, but doing an Avengers e-ticket attraction, not only would it be great for Disney California Adventure, you wouldn't have to do nearly as much prep in order to kind of facilitate the installation of that attraction, right? Because it's the own parking lot, basically. You just got to move a couple backstage buildings and bada bing, bada boom, you're good. It's a little bit more straightforward. So, it's interesting. Don't sleep on it, folks. OG and I think are pretty. I think we're pretty good on this. It's coming eventually. Maybe not. At this D23 EXPO, maybe, but definitely in the future.
Yep, absolutely. Well, I'm gonna let Captain Marvel send us out.
Thank you very much.
And I want to thank you all for watching today. This episode of OG 55. What do you guys at home think about the parks panel, the announcements, the verbiage in this announcement, what it might mean? What do you guys think about everything we discussed today? The Avengers e-ticket, the Frozen stuff, new Tomorrowland. We would love to hear from you. Dre, I want to thank you, brother, again, as always, sir, for joining us. If you can let everybody at home know where they can find you on social media, sir.
best place to interact with me is going to be right at Twitter. It's right down there. Just type that Vash Sky into the into Twitter right there. Should pop up. And if you want to see me, well, it's going to be on the channel you're watching right now at Orange Grove 55 at Freshly Squeezed, your source for juicy news and info squeezed fresh right from the Grove.
Perfect. Well, thank you so much, brother, and thank you all for watching. Like I said, comment down below. D23 EXPO is coming up fast and furious. It should be a good one. Tempered expectations, though. Tempered expectations. We don't want to get too hyped and then get disappointed. So
Right.
You know,
if you don't see any lands featured for Disneyland, we told you here first. just temper expectations. This is usually the Walt Disney World show, as you said. Just hold on. We'll get through it.
And thank you all for watching. And as always, have a wonderful, wonderful day.